is episode 169 on the 14th of February 2020.
Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
The world celebrates 14th of February. People's Talk Show will celebrate another milestone. 25th, 50th, 100th, 150th, and now the 175th episode is around the corner. Not often that you see a single run talk show reach such a milestone in a space of just 20 months. Often do you see talk shows celebrating such milestones, but for this talk show, every milestone is an achievement. Talks about the art and to create this special talk show every week. In fact, 3 times a week. One may argue that TV shows run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as do radio shows. But then they have over 100 people working in that organization. After a while, it does become monotonous, but not this talk show. Every episode is carefully thought, carefully curated, and the best content is brought out to the people which the people love. After all, this is a people's talk show. Reaching the 175th episode is because of the august audience this talk show has. Audience from all over the world, in the UK, the Europe, the US, even Australia. Yes, celebrating a milestone is a special occasion for this talk show. After all, it is the people's talk show. Countdown begins from 14th of February 2020 on the 169th episode. This talk show strives to reach people to all corners of the globe in each and every region on this planet. Join me to celebrate in the week leading up to the 175th episode. After all, a milestone is a milestone is a milestone. People's podcast will have a very, very special guest on the 175th episode as the countdown begins from tonight. Once upon a time in the world of luxuries and necessity, owning a phone, a car was a luxury rather than a necessity. In fact, 3 decades ago, it was a huge deal to have a phone in one's house. And when I say phone, the vintage rotary phone or the push button phone. In the contemporary times, phone is a symbol of necessity, and it's taken for granted that every individual, irrespective of their economic status, should have a mobile phone. Owning a phone 3 to 4 decades ago showed that either you were rich or you had some connections so that you could get the phone in one's house. While in the contemporary times, it is almost expected. It is an etiquette that one should answer the phone if someone calls or texts you. Not replying to a text in the contemporary science is seen as a sign of rudeness or as a sign of avoiding someone, or in some cases feigning to be busy. This wasn't the case 3 to 4 decades ago. Now in the contemporary times, having a landline is seen as a sign of a wastage. Contemporary times, landlines are almost reserved for offices. People are too lazy to sit at one place and call. They are in such a hurry that they want to move around and talk to people. So yes, having a mobile phone trumps having a landline phone. There are 2 parts to it. Having a landline phone means not a rented accommodation. You are not living in a city that is not your native city. The landline phone means that giving your home address to the telephone officials. The way the world is busy right now, the way the definition of having a job has changed. Night shifts, day shifts, working at odd hours means that it's not possible to be patient enough to have a landline connection at home. Compared to 30 years ago, landline is now seen as an intrusion of privacy. As the world moves from wire to wireless, landline doesn't allow the luxury of texting someone. In areas and regions where the mobile connection is poor or the network fails again and again, isn't landline the best alternative? And if schools do not allow landlines at home, shouldn't there be phone booths in school so that if students have to call up home in an emergency, they can do it by using the landline phone and not be affected by the presence of the mobile phone, which is often seen as a distraction. The way the world is progressing, soon even mobile phones will become a vintage article. And it won't be a surprise if that mobile phone, which is that big, huge silicon product in your hand, is replaced by the watch phone, means the phone will be just as small as your wrist. People are excited about accessories such as smartwatch because it's hands free. Later years, it might become a problem because of its small size. As the world moves on from watching TV on huge screens to watching TV on laptops and slowly progressing to watching TV shows and videos on one's phones. Won't be a surprise if in the future the neck becomes a huge liability for individuals as people bend down and watch the videos on their phones and eventually on their smart watches. Quite strange the way individuals welcome a new gadget. Assumed to be this huge technological revolution, lose our minds over this gadget and go gaga, realizing it being a huge liability in the years to come. And when finally dawns upon an individual that these gadgets may eventually pose health problems and basic posture issues, we go into this overdrive and this debate at whether so many gadgets are needed by individuals or should the size of gadget be appropriate for the person to read properly and not squint their eyes, hurt their necks, and have back and neck issues. That's a question the makers and the creators of these gadgets do not bother about. For them, the smaller the gadget, the more it will be sold, the more people will be gullible about those gadgets. By the time individuals are mature enough to understand the issues related to these gadgets, those gadgets would have been sold at such a frantic rate that the companies will not bother about the problems. The most interesting part about the makers and the creators of these gadgets such as smartwatch is that they exploit the hypochondriac nature of the individuals in the current times. People who are fussed about trivial issues such as fitness. How do these makers and creators of these gadgets respond? But these makers and creators only exploit the very gullible and hypochondriac nature of individuals, which in today's times everything is linked to either climate change or one's fitness. Let's understand the wording of this article. For the past few years, it's not just geeks and fitness enthusiasts who have been keen on fitness trackers. The popularity of these gadgets has become far more widespread. Because the lazy nature of the individuals in the contemporary times, we don't want to make the effort of calling and texting on these huge landline and mobile phones. So let's use the mini smart watches on our wrists, watches which measure your heart rate, how many kilometers you have jogged, are in huge demand in contemporary times, but there are two sides of it. Are we so gullible and so anxious that we need gadgets which measure our heart rate and the number of kilometers we have traveled? The basic exercise of jogging has become a huge joke as soon as these gadgets have hit the market. Need these measurement gadgets to tell us that you have completed a task today? Why are we, after all, so gullible and so anxious? A question to which there is no concrete answer. Every day there is a new study which says that for too long at one place can affect one's health. Then another study says that standing at one place or for longer duration can affect your health. Such studies come out. The human's most deep anxious nature also comes out with it. Sometimes these studies say that don't sleep for more than 8 hours, it will affect your heart, or these studies come up with such preposterous theories and postulation that sleeping for less than 7 hours also affects our health. There is a contradictory discussion about the working hours of an individual and whether working late nights and late night shift is part of the modern day worker and whether the 9 to 5 job theory has to be disbanded. Contrasting studies confuse people, and what happens? These smart gadgets, makers of these gadgets, exploit this very anxious and confused mind of individuals. Out come the smart watches which measure your heart rate, the number of kilometers you have jogged, and other such assorted measurements. Most anxious moments come during exams. Individuals are not allowed to wear watches during exams because examination organizers fail to see the difference between simple wrist watch which only shows time and the complicated smart watch which can often be perceived as a cheating device. Won't be a surprise if 5 years from now the administrations understand the complexity of a mobile phone and start installing phone booths in important areas. In fact, in my point of view, despite individuals possessing the mobile phone, each and every marketplace, especially in India, should have at least one phone booth. What if your mobile phone runs out of battery? There is no network. How does one's mobile phone run out of battery? Suppose at a marketplace we are waiting for a friend and we want to be entertained. Start watching videos on our mobile phones or start sending text messages to friends, and then when the mobile loses battery, when the battery is at 10%, then we panic. Or charge at a public place because in a study it has been said that charging your phone at a public place means your phone may be subject to malwares, viruses and being hacked. What do? Don't watch videos while waiting for your friends. If you're in a marketplace, there is enough live entertainment with people coming in and out of metro stations and enough activities happening outside. In the contemporary times, our mind has been tuned to such an extent that the word entertainment means only watching videos on the phone. So therefore, the administrations have to put phone booths at every important marketplace. If revenue generation is the agenda of administrations and municipalities, and there is no bigger revenue generation than putting phone booths at important marketplaces. The Wi-Fi at marketplaces will not help, but that's the way the cookie crumbles when it comes to modern times. Definition of food has undergone a huge transformation in the past decade. It's not only about consuming something, but what you consume, how much you consume, what are the calories, whether the food is veg, non-veg, vegan, whether the food contributes in a positive or a negative manner to the environment, and also if it directly or indirectly affects climate change. Individual has to keep these in their mind before consuming any food. It becomes even more complicated. We start associating food with a certain region and the emotions associated with it and how it affects our palate. The simplest measure of consuming food has now become complicated. Food choices, which are often said to be a personal decision, now is no longer personal. One's food choice affects the way we look at an individual, contribution they make to the society. Let me explain this to you with an example which is in some cases bizarre, but still it's there to be discussed. Eating just one meal a day make you healthier, fitter and more focused at work. The OMAD diet has been endorsed by actors, CEOs, even sports people. One meal a day plan is an extreme form of intermittent fasting, also called the 23:1 diet, because you fast for 23 hours a day and consume food during a 1 hour window. Story is that the body can get all the nutrition it needs from one meal if that meal is ordered right. Typically, one portion of meat, a portion of each of two vegetables, large portions of whole grains and legumes, some carbs, and some milk or yogurt. Once means you pay more attention to the meal, the theory goes. It also allegedly helps the body use up stored fat, leading over time to weight loss. Let me add my own theory. Add one more consumption to this, and this is an abstract consumption. As this theory postulates meal a day diet, I postulate on various digital media websites for 1 hour a day and having a 23-hour fast from the social and the digital media sites. As OMAD makes us healthier, fitter, and more focused as work, that way OSNAD, one social networking a day diet. The question is, will individuals accept the OSNAD? One can debate about the healthy nature of OMAD. For me, OSNAD will be the healthiest decision ever taken by individuals in the contemporary times. I follow this OSNAD theory. Access my digital networking sites just 10 minutes every day, that is 70 minutes in a week. Means if there are 1440 minutes in a day, remaining 1430 minutes are spent in doing other activities which bring some kind of knowledge and are not going to affect my health at any point in time. This is debatable. What is healthy? Said the world is obsessed with fitness and health and obesity and losing weight in a manner never seen before. It won't be a surprise if this OMAD theory is somehow directly or indirectly linked to climate change. Linking everything to climate change is the way the world functions in the contemporary times, the way it will for the next 1,000 years. It's quite ridiculous and ludicrous that thing as simple as eating food, which is supposed to be a personal and a private affair, not only global and public. A person's attitude and behavior is decided by the meals they consume. Hamlet may have said to be or not to be. Now individuals are going to say to eat or not to eat. This innate nature to question what is healthy, what is not healthy, will it help us in our weight reduction or will we be fit? Now a discourse now trending and gaining momentum. The theory postulates that we should cut down on processed food. Currently is obsessed in talking about heart disease, diabetes, depression and even death. Some cases we link it to climate change, in other cases we link it to our nutrition and what we eat. A few people even cross the line by linking both climate change and the way we eat our food products. Becomes even more ridiculous when we start regionalizing food, such as South Indian, North Indian, Italian, Mediterranean. It becomes worse when you talk about being perceived. Only in a country where what you eat determines how you are perceived. There is a question about food wastage. According to Dutch researchers who suggest that every person in the world is wasting about 500 calories of food a day. As I said, linking everything to climate change is now the most important thing that we do in contemporary times. Here comes the shocker. Reducing food wastage is a key challenge in fighting climate changes. Wasted and lost food accounts for almost 10% of all our greenhouse gas emissions according to the UN. There is one dilemma as far as the definition of food consumption and food wastage is concerned. If we go to a marriage and we don't see varieties of food, it is termed almost as an insult to the guests. And I make no bones about it when I say that the most food wasted is at marriages. And yet there is an underlying unwritten rule that there has to be variety in marriages. I could give you a lot of examples of food wastage moments, but I won't because of the sensitive nature associated with it. For those who are smart enough will understand. First step we have to do is stop linking everything to